Hello, in this video we'll connect our database to our application. Let's look at our database, and to do that go to View, SQL Server Object Explorer. Let's pin it to the screen, and I'm gonna open our local server and go to our databases. Our databases address book. Let's expand that, tables, and to see the data in our data table, I'm gonna right click and go to View Data. As you remember, we created just 3 records, and what we're gonna do, we're gonna grab the first record and display it in our form. Let's unpin it. And to do that, we're gonna use an ADO.NET technology. It's a Microsoft technology to access databases, and to read more about it, go to this link and read about it. We're going to use a namespace that's part of that technology, System Data SQL Client, and inside that namespace there's a class SQL Data Adapter. So think about it as somebody wrote this code that we're going to include in our project, and we're going to reuse this code. Again, to read about it, go to this link and read more about it. So we're going to follow the steps listed here. And the first step, we're going to make sure that System Data SQL Client namespace is included in our project. Let's go back to our project. Okay, we don't have our code right now. To display it, just right click on your form and click View Code. Okay, and so far we have only one method. So we want to create another method. We want some code to be executed when our form loads. To create a method like that, we can do it a couple ways. We can double click on our form and the method is going to be created, or we can highlight our form, go to our property, let me pin it to the screen, and I will unpin our Solution Explorer, and I'll go to Events, and here I have our load method. So if I double click on it, it's going to create a load method. Alright. So let's just make sure it works. So as soon as our form loads, this this code inside this method is going to be executed. So let's just put a message box on the screen, and we'll just say form loaded. Let's put semicolon. And let's execute our application, and as you can see, as soon as application starts, it says form loaded. I click OK, and here we have our form. So we already programmed our exit button. Alright, we actually don't need this code. Let's remove it. And as you remember, the first step, we need to make sure that System Data SQL Client namespace is included in our project. Let's go back, and up here, as you can see, I already have it. Let me remove it and we'll do it from scratch. So if you don't have it, you're gonna make an extra line and you're gonna type using, and IntelliSense helps you, so I can just press tab and it fills it for me, system, and I'm gonna put data, and when I put data I have all these options. So we need SQL Client, and I put semicolon. Alright, next step, we're going to define the connection string. Alright, let's find our connection string. So we have our database. Let me pin it to the screen. Okay, here's our database. I'm going to highlight it, and I'm going to go to Properties. And as you can see, I have this connection string right here. So let me expand a little more. So we don't have the whole line is really long. What I just need to copy up to this point. So when it says integrate security equals true, semicolon, copy up to that point. So I'm gonna right click, copy, okay, and I don't need it anymore. I'm gonna unpin it. Alright, and I'm going to declare a string. I'm I'm going to type string, and I'm going to call it connection string. We can call it anything we want. And I'm going to place what we copied inside those quotation marks. Semicolon at the end. Now, one thing, as you can see in the middle, this backslash is highlighted. Put another backsplash in front of it. It's called an escape symbol, so if you want, just Google it and read what it does. But for now, just put extra backslash. So here, it's underlined in green because it says we created this connection string, but we are not using it yet. Alright, let's see what's our next step. We're going to define the query string. And again, we're going to declare a string, and we're going to call it, let's say, query string. And we're going to use SQL language, and to access data, to pull data, we're going to use a select statement. So we're going to type select star. It means we want all data from that table. And the name, we're going to type from, and the name of the table is address book table. Okay, and semicolon at the end. Okay, next step. Okay, we're going to define the data adapter. Alright, data adapter. We're going to type SQL data adapter. As you can see, IntelliSense is helping us. So I can just press tab, and it's right there. And let's call it, we can call it again anything we want. DA, data adapter equals, and we're going to type new, so it's a new instance. And it's helping us, SQL adapter. Alright, and we're going to place a couple things inside the parentheses. So first we're going to put the query string, comma, and now we're going to place the connection string. So let's look at our next step. Okay, create an instance of a data table or data set. So data set includes multiple tables. Since we have only one table, we're going to just create a data table. Okay, so we're going to just start typing data table right there. And let's call it just DTA. Again, we can choose any name we want. Data table, and it's going to be new data table, like that. So this is an empty data table. There's no data in it. Alright, next step. Ignore what it says in parentheses. We're going to talk about it later. We are going to just open the connection, pull the data, and then close the connection. And the rule about opening the connection, you open it at the last second before you pull the data from the database. And you close the connection as soon as you did that. So as soon as you have your data, you close the connection. Alright, let's open the connection. So to do that, we have to create an instance of connection. So we're going to start typing SQL connection. Alright, why is it not showing SQL connection? Right there. And let's just say we're gonna call it our connection. And we're gonna say new SQL connection. And we're gonna place our connection string inside our connection. So we're gonna just type connection string. Alright, so after we create it, we can open it. So we have our connection. So all this data we created is all in the memory. Nothing is happening right now. So when we open our connection, we type our connection dot open semicolon. So usually we put this open connection in a try catch block, because if it fails, the whole application is going to crash. We don't want that to happen. What we're going to do, we're going to put in try catch block. Try, and we're going to just place it right there. And in the catch block, we're going to say if it fails, we're going to say in the message box that connection failed. Connection failed. Alright, semicolon. Okay, and if it's open, let's actually do the same thing. But we're gonna say that connection is open. And let's run it and see what happens, and we're gonna modify it just a little bit. So the application is trying to find this address book. It found it, and now it connected it, and it was successful. The code in a try block, and our message box shows connection is open. Okay, and our form, let's exit it, and let's change it a little bit. Instead of saying connection is open, what we're gonna do, we're gonna say connection is, and we're gonna add a property of our SQL connection that is called a state. So we're going to do plus, and we're going to say our connection state. Okay, and this property is either open or closed. So when we run this application, it's not actually gonna say connection is what we want to say. If it's closed, it's going to say closed. If it's open, it's going to open. And let's do the same thing actually right here. Connection is, and we're going to just copy this and paste it. Alright, let's run it and see what happens. Connection is open. Okay. And now I'm going to change our database. I'm going to say address book 1, and we don't have this database. So let's see what happens. So application is going to start looking for that database. And when it doesn't find it, it's going to say the connection is not open because we don't have a database. So connection is closed. So what happened? Our code went to this try block. It tried to open a connection to this database. Since it doesn't exist, it went here and it said the connection is closed because we don't have this database and we cannot open to connection to a database that doesn't exist. Okay, let's change it back to address book. Now when our connection is open, we can access our database and extract our data from the database. Let's do that. So we're gonna use our SQL adapter, and the name of it is DA, as you remember. So we're gonna type DA period, and the method we're gonna use is called fill. So double click, and the way it works, that adapter will go to the database, and as you can see we have query string and connection string. It's gonna connect to the database and execute this query string. It's gonna grab all data from our database, and then it's gonna fill the table we created, and the name of the table we created is DT, right? We're gonna put here DT. Okay, now we're going to have, after this code is executed, we're going to have this data table with the data inside, but it's going to be just in the memory. Now we have to extract the data from the data table. Let's do that. We're going to display, so let's look at our form. So we're going to display the name in this first text box. Alright, the way we do it, the name of our text box, let's look. I'm going to highlight it, go to property, and the name of it, I need to go to property instead of events. Okay, txt name. I'm going to type txt name. Let me scroll down a little bit. Dot text. So it wanted to be displayed as text. Okay. Now the data we're extracting from this data table dt. So we're going to type dt period, and we're going to access rows, and we're going to grab the data from the very first row, and the number is 0, right? We start counting 0, 1, 2, all right? And then we're going to do another set of square brackets, and the name of our column, as you remember, let's open really quick, let's look at the data. So the name of our column is name. So in our form, in our code, I'm going to type name, and I'm going to convert it to string and semicolon. Alright, this is the line. So now when we execute this code, connection is open, and as you can see, my name is displayed in this text box. So now let's populate all other text boxes. So, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to click here and do Control-C, Control-V twice. Okay. And here I'm going to change it to, let's look at our table. So we have address and phone number. I'm going to change it to address and phone number. Okay, and of course we need to change our boxes here. So let's see the name. We called it txt address and txt phone. All right, so txt address and txt phone. All right, let's run our application. Connection is open, and we have our data. All right, one little modification we're going to do. As you remember, line 6 and line 8 said that data adaptive field method does it for you. It opens and closes the connection. So technically we actually don't need to open this connection. So what we can do, we can just copy this and put it right here. Okay. We'll just remove it completely because we don't need it. And here we'll just say error happened. All right, and we need to close this application before we run it. Let's do it one more time. Okay. And says I forgot the code. Oh. All right. Okay, now it should run, should work like as expected. Alright, so in this video we used ADO.NET technology to access our database, and we use the namespace System Data SQL client and also SQL Data Adapter class as part of that namespace. And we use the following steps to access our database and pull the data from the database and display it in our application. In the next video we'll continue building our application, and we will program buttons previous and next of our application. For now, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.